Earlier this year, I commissioned this art of a Hisuian Voltorb, and today we got this art of the new officially revealed Hisuian Voltorb. Though to be fair, I guess it always was low-hanging fruit. Hey Pokemon Masters, PokeAtmos here, and I'm not going to take up too much of your time today, but I do have a theory about Hisuian Voltorb, how it can possibly exist in the world of Pokemon, given that we all thought that Voltorb was a possessed Pokeball, perhaps possessed by a Haunter, or perhaps by a Rotom that was taking over it in the same way that Rotom takes over other appliances, but then because the Pokeball is a capturing mechanism, it captured itself. After all, Pokedex entries say that Voltorb was first discovered in Pokeball factories, but clearly they can't have meant this Voltorb because Hisuian Voltorb existed before it, and that's an electric grass type. How can this be? Well, I have to officially say that the Rotom theory and the Haunter theory, the possessed Pokeball theory, in my mind, is debunked. I actually think that Voltorb is an organic creature. I absolutely do. And by the way, that's not that weird. The partner to Voltorb in Generation 1, Magnemite, that line, that is also an organic species. It's actually an alien species. I've done theories covering it, but we know this because it existed 3,000 years ago in AZ's war. So like, non-man-made Magnemite, that makes sense. So Voltorb also makes sense. Also, don't forget this is the Pokemon world where a rock snake can become a steel snake just because Melco. In fact, it's not too dissimilar in the way that Scyther used to evolve into Cleavor, but now it evolves into Scizor. But anyway, back to Voltorb. Hisuian Voltorb is a grass electric type with seeds inside it. And this fascinates me because how are Pokeballs made? Not the kind of modern day mechanical ones, but the more classic contemporary ones. They're made by way of apricorns. We see this in the Johto games where Kurt the apricorn maker is the only person who seems to remember how to make these sort of more classical Pokeballs. Although they do have the modern look to them, they are made by hollowing out apricorns. And apricorns must be some kind of plant that reproduces with seeds inside it. Otherwise, how would more apricorn trees grow, allowing more apricorns to develop and more Pokeballs to exist? And note that Voltorb's Pokedex entry about it first being discovered in Pokeball factories doesn't say anything about them being modern Pokeball factories. These could be really old Pokeball factories from the era of the Hisui region. Okay, hang on. So Toby, the picture we're painting now is that in the Hisui region, 100 or so years ago, there was a Pokeball making factory where people like Kurt would hollow out apricorns and make Pokeballs, you know, that would have had seeds in them, I guess, and maybe the seed removal is part of that process of turning it into a Pokeball. Fine, but then how did one of them become a Voltorb? It can't be because of the seeds, because, you know, they only just create more apricorn trees. We don't see lots of like Hisuian Voltorb trees in the modern day games around Johto. By the way, Johto is the only region I think with apricorn trees at all. They seem to be becoming a little bit of a rarity in the world. Likely they're all grown in factories now and on plants specifically for this purpose. Or perhaps the materials that we use to create modern day Pokeballs have just simply changed and they've moved away from the traditional apricorns. So anyway, how could one of these apricorns from an old Pokeball factory become a Voltorb? The answer, as I said earlier, low-hanging fruit, could be that the Voltorb, the apricorn, was taken over by some kind of interesting parasite or fungus. That some kind of parasitic fungal infection took over or takes over X amount of these apricorns every day, creating Hisuian Voltorbs. This isn't weird. We actually see this in like Parasect, where the Pokemon isn't really the Pokemon, it's more the parasitic mushroom on top. But more specifically, this all comes together when we look to Generation 5, the Unova games, where we see the Pokemon Fungus and Amoonguss, who have evolved and look a lot like modern day Pokeballs. Possibly imitating not just real life Pokeballs, but other plant life, like Voltorb. In fact, we can see that Hisuian Voltorb is a lot larger than their Pokeballs. Perhaps it is these particularly large, parasitically infected Pokeballs that the Hisuians modeled their current Pokeballs off of. This means that on the Tree of Life, Voltorb is not a man-made Pokemon, it is a relative of the Amoonguss line. And that would make sense because both of these Pokemon appear as Pokeballs on the floor in the overworld because they want to be touched by people who will pass their fungal spores along to other life forms or perhaps to other apricorns. And in fact, getting caught by people would be a really good thing for a Voltorb, because then it would be caught by a trainer who would be touching more apricorns in the form of their Pokeballs with these fungus spore infected hands. And okay, what about the electricity inside of the Voltorb? Where does that come from? Well, it could be simply a case of the fact that now this creature is alive and is capable of bioelectric genesis. Is that the word? Electric biogenesis? I'm really tired. Or it could just simply be that it becomes an electric type Pokemon because that's what type it is. Doesn't have to be to do with the fact that it's mechanical in any way. Plenty of electric Pokemon are. And if Voltorb's life cycle is so dependent on humans and their relationships to apricorns and Pokeballs, then when the technologies for Pokeballs changed, it was most advantageous for Voltorb to be picked up by human trainers by way of imitating their more modern Pokeballs, and so it became to look more like the modern Pokeball. But it started first simply as an apricorn with a parasitic fungal infection, and not as a possessed ghost Pokeball. But that's just my theory. I want to hear your thoughts in the comment. My voice is going. I'm really tired. I'm also giving away a copy of Legend Arceus, 3 copies of Legends Arceus when it comes out. Just leave a comment in the comment section down below, and you'll be in with the chance of winning. Let me know what you think down there, and of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master!
Wow, a huge thank you to those of you who are supporting this channel, especially those of you on Patreon and the big patrons of this month, JD Gartledge, PokeBliss, Michael Hornschuch, and Jedruben. Thank you.